Invent and Wander by Jeff Bezos. Picture a 10-year-old boy in the backseat of his grandparents' car, somewhere on a dusty Texas highway during summer vacation. His grandfather's driving, his grandmother's up front, cigarette in hand, doing what she always does. And this kid, well, he's the type who loves puzzles and numbers more than most people love dessert. He just heard some public service announcement saying that every cigarette puff shaves 2 minutes off your life. And like any numbers-obsessed kid would do, he starts calculating cigarettes per day, puffs per cigarette, minutes into hours, hours into days, days into years. His brain is working overtime. When he finally cracks the code, he's practically bursting with pride. He leans forward, taps his grandmother on the shoulder, and announces triumphantly, "At 2 minutes per puff, you've taken 9 years off your life." He's expecting applause, maybe a pat on the back for being such a clever little mathematician. Instead, his grandmother starts crying. The silence in that car becomes deafening. His grandfather pulls over, gets out, and opens the boy's door. He gently guides him out onto the shoulder of the highway. The boy's thinking he's about to get the lecture of his life. But his grandfather, this quiet, thoughtful man, just looks at him and says something that will echo for decades. "Jeff, one day you'll understand that it's harder to be kind than clever." That boy was Jeff Bezos. And that uncomfortable moment on a Texas roadside holds the DNA of a philosophy that would eventually build one of the most powerful companies on earth. Today, we're diving into the mind of the man who created Amazon. We're exploring his collected writings in a book called Invent and Wander. But this isn't some dry business manual. It's a peek behind the curtain at the thinking that transformed a garage startup into a global phenomenon. By the time we're done, you'll understand way more than just Amazon's history. You'll discover the deeply human principles that drive real, lasting success. You'll learn mental models that can help you make smarter decisions, take better risks, and build not just a successful career, but a life that actually means something. Because what worked for building a trillion-dollar company can also work for building a life filled with purpose and adventure. So let's get into it. To really understand how Jeff Bezos thinks, you need to go back to those childhood summers on his grandfather's ranch in Texas. This wasn't some hobby farm where everything's picture perfect. This was a real working ranch in the middle of nowhere. When something broke, which happened constantly, you couldn't just Google nearest repairman. You had to figure it out yourself. His grandfather was basically a one-man problem-solving machine. Young Jeff watched him fix broken bulldozers, play veterinarian to sick cattle, and MacGyver solutions to impossible problems with whatever was lying around. This taught him something no classroom ever could. You can invent your way out of any corner. Problems aren't walls, they're puzzles. This builder's mindset, this belief that you can fix anything if you're willing to try, became the foundation for everything that came after. Mix that practical roll-up-your-sleeves attitude with a heavy dose of science fiction, and you've got the Bezos formula. Writers like Isaac Asimov and Robert Heinlein weren't just entertaining him, they were expanding his sense of what's possible, showing him futures that didn't exist yet. This combination of hands-on resourcefulness from the ranch and limitless imagination from books created a powerful way of seeing the world, not just as it is, but as it could be. Jump ahead to 1994. Bezos is now crushing it at a fancy Wall Street hedge fund. Smart guy, successful, secure, making great money, life's good. Then he stumbles across one number that changes everything. Web usage is growing at 200-300% per year. Let that sink in, not 23%. 2,300%. He'd never seen anything grow that explosively. His builder instinct combined with his sci-fi imagination kicked into overdrive. He saw a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a digital gold rush happening in real time. The idea started forming, an everything store that could only exist online. But where to start? He made a list of 20 products he could sell online, and books won. Why? Simple. There are millions of book titles in existence, way more than any physical bookstore could ever stock. The vision crystallized. Unlimited selection, available to anyone, anywhere. So he went to his boss, someone he really respected, and laid out his wild idea. His boss listened patiently, then took him for a long walk through Central Park. "You know what, Jeff?" he said. "This is a really good idea, but it would be an even better idea for somebody who didn't already have a good job." Pretty logical advice, right? Why gamble with a sure thing for some crazy long shot? This was the moment of truth, the fork in the road between security and adventure. To make the decision, Bezos created what he calls the regret minimization framework. It's beautifully simple. He imagined himself at 80 years old, looking back at his life. From that perspective, he asked, would he regret trying this and failing? No. But would he regret never trying at all? Absolutely yes. He knew that what if would haunt him forever. As he puts it, in the end, we are our choices. Build yourself a great story. So he made his choice. He quit, and he and his wife Mackenzie flew to Texas, grabbed a used car from his dad, and started the now legendary drive to Seattle. While Mackenzie drove, Jeff sat in the passenger seat, hammering out a business plan on his laptop. The company was literally born on the road. Seattle made sense for two reasons. It was near a major book distributor, and it had serious tech talent thanks to Microsoft. He called a lawyer to make it official. He wanted to name it Cadabra, like abracadabra. The lawyer misheard him over the phone and asked, "Cadaver?" Bezos realized that wasn't going to work. A few months later, he renamed it Amazon, after the world's biggest river, perfect for his vision of the world's biggest selection. The early days were anything but glamorous. He set up shop in his garage. His first desks? Wooden doors from Home Depot. He, Mackenzie, and a handful of early employees did everything. When an order came in, a bell would ring. Soon that bell was ringing so constantly they had to unplug it. In those first weeks, Jeff was on his hands and knees on cold concrete, packing boxes. One day he said to an employee, "This is killing my knees. We need knee pads." The employee looked at him and said, "What we need are packing tables." Light bulb moment. The next day they got packing tables, and productivity doubled instantly. Simple lesson learned early. Listen. Listen to the people doing the actual work. Listen to your customers. They'll tell you exactly how to improve. This brings us to the two big ideas that define everything Amazon does, principles that Bezos repeated year after year in his shareholder letters. They're the twin engines of everything: customer obsession and the day one mentality. First, customer obsession. This isn't some corporate slogan on a poster. It's the actual North Star. Bezos makes a crucial distinction. You can be competitor-focused, or you can be customer-focused. Most companies are competitor-focused. They watch their rivals and try to one-up them. The problem? That approach has a ceiling. Your progress is limited by what your competitors are doing. A customer-focused company has no ceiling. Why? Because, as he says, customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied. Even when they don't realize it, they want something better. This constant drive to delight customers forces you to be a pioneer. Perfect example. Amazon's decision to allow customer reviews, including negative ones, right on product pages. Retail heresy. A publisher actually called Bezos and asked, "Why would you allow negative reviews? You make money when you sell things." Bezos's response was elegant and profound. "We don't make money when we sell things. We make money when we help customers make purchase decisions." He understood that building long-term trust beats any short-term sale. Helping someone avoid a bad purchase earns loyalty in ways that pushing products never could. That's customer obsession in action, playing the long game. This connects to the second pillar. It's always day one. Bezos is famous for this. He even named a main building on campus, Day One. So what does it mean? Day two, he explains, is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death. Day one is the startup mindset, nimble, hungry, inventive, unafraid of risk. A day one company is always learning, always experimenting, always looking forward. A day two company gets comfortable. It drowns in bureaucracy. It starts managing to proxies like process, instead of focusing on real results for customers. In a day two company, someone defends bad results by saying, "Well, we followed the process." A day one leader would say, "Then the process is broken. Let's fix it." For Bezos, the best defense against day two is customer obsession. Your customers pull you into the future. They keep you sharp, force you to keep inventing. This philosophy faced its ultimate test during the dot-com crash in the early 2000s. The internet bubble burst, and Wall Street turned viciously on tech companies. Amazon's stock collapsed from over $100 to just $6. Pundits gleefully called it Amazon.bomb and Amazon.toast, predicting its death. Bezos opened his 2000 shareholder letter with one word: ouch. But while everyone else was panicking, Bezos was watching something else, his internal metrics, and what he saw told a completely different story. Customer numbers were growing. Profit per unit was improving. Cost structure was getting more efficient. Everything inside the company was getting stronger, even as the stock price cratered. He understood something crucial that many forget. The stock is not the company, and the company is not the stock. He quotes investor Benjamin Graham, "In the short run, the market is a voting machine, but in the long run, it is a weighing machine." Bezos knew that if he kept building a quota company, one with real value for customers, the market would eventually catch on. He was playing a long game, willing to be misunderstood for years. This long-term thinking gave him freedom to fail. This is one of the most important and counterintuitive ideas in the book. Bezos believes that failure and invention are inseparable twins. You can't have one without the other. If you know something will work before you try it, it's not an experiment. He argues that big organizations love the idea of invention but aren't willing to suffer through the string of failures necessary to get there. At Amazon, they embrace it. Bezos has even said, "I believe we are the best place in the world to fail." He distinguishes between two types of failure. There's operational failure, where you mess up something you already know how to do. That's just bad execution. But then there's experimental failure, where you're pushing boundaries, trying something new. That's not just acceptable, it's essential. He points out that business isn't like baseball. In baseball, even if you crush it, the most runs you can score is 4. In business, sometimes when you step up to the plate, you can score 1,000 runs. This long-tailed distribution is why bold swings matter so much. A single big winner can pay for dozens of failed experiments. The Amazon Fire Phone was a famous multi-billion-dollar failure, but the team and technology from that project built Amazon Echo and Alexa, one of their biggest successes. The lessons from the failure directly fueled the win. This willingness to experiment and think long-term led to Amazon's 3 great pillars of success, what Bezos calls his 3 big ideas: Marketplace, Prime, and Amazon Web Services. Let's start with Marketplace. Early on, Amazon's business was straightforward: buy products wholesale, sell them to customers. But Bezos had a radical idea. What if he invited other sellers, even direct competitors, to sell their products right on Amazon's own product pages? Internally, this sparked a civil war. The retail buyers were furious. They argued it would cannibalize their sales and destroy their jobs. But Bezos's logic was rooted in customer obsession. If another seller could offer a customer a better price or better availability, the customer should have easy access to that. Their first attempts flopped. They launched Amazon Auctions, crickets. Then Z-Shops, more crickets. But they stayed stubborn on the vision and flexible on the details. Finally, they launched Marketplace, and it took off immediately. Today, nearly 60% of all physical goods sold on Amazon come from third-party sellers. By putting customers first, they created a win-win. Sellers got massive reach, customers got better selection and prices. Next came Amazon Prime. This idea came from a junior software engineer who suggested an all-you-can-eat buffet of fast, free shipping for a flat annual fee. When finance ran the numbers, the results were, in Bezos's words, horrifying. They stood to lose millions in shipping revenue. No spreadsheet could justify it. It was a leap of faith, an intuitive bet based on a simple belief. Customers love fast, free shipping, and if offered the best deal in shopping history, they'd respond. And they did. Today, there are over 100 million Prime members worldwide. The real genius was how Prime and Marketplace came together. Through Fulfillment by Amazon, sellers could store products in Amazon's warehouses, and Amazon handled packing, shipping, and customer service. The magic? Products became Prime eligible. Suddenly, the flywheel spun with incredible force. Sellers flocked to it because it dramatically increased sales. Prime members were thrilled because Prime-eligible selection exploded. Marketplace fueled Prime, and Prime fueled Marketplace. A perfect, self-reinforcing loop. The third big idea, Amazon Web Services, is perhaps the most surprising. In the early 2000s, Amazon got really good at running massive, reliable, cost-effective computing infrastructure for its retail business. They realized the internal services they'd built for storage, computing, and databases could be offered to other companies. At the time, the idea seemed bizarre. What does this have to do with selling books? People asked. But Bezos and his team had a hunch. Companies everywhere were struggling with the, quote, undifferentiated heavy lifting of running their own tech infrastructure. By offering it as pay-as-you-go, they could free entrepreneurs to focus on what really mattered, their own products and customers. Amazon Web Services launched in 2006. Then, as Bezos describes it, the greatest piece of business luck in the history of business happened. For 7 years they had no serious competition. A 7-year head start to build something so far ahead that it became the dominant force in cloud computing. Today, Amazon Web Services powers everything, from Netflix and Airbnb to the CIA. It was a bold bet, born from solving their own problem, that completely transformed the tech industry. As Amazon grew from garage startup to global giant, Bezos realized one of the biggest threats to its day-one culture was slow decision-making. He noticed that large organizations tend to use one heavy, slow process for every decision, which grinds everything to a halt. To fight this, he developed 2 powerful mental models. The first is to classify decisions into 2 types, Type 1 and Type 2. Type 1 decisions are one-way doors. They're highly consequential and nearly irreversible. Once you walk through, you can't easily get back. These should be made slowly, carefully, with lots of deliberation. But most decisions are Type 2 two-way doors. They're reversible. If you make a bad Type 2 decision, you just reopen the door and go back through. These should be made quickly by smart individuals or small groups. The danger is when big organizations use the heavyweight Type 1 process for reversible Type 2 decisions. That's when bureaucracy kills speed. The second model is the phrase disagree and commit. In a company full of passionate, intelligent people, consensus is often impossible. Teams get locked in endless debate, and decisions get delayed. Disagree and commit breaks that gridlock. It means even if you don't agree with a decision, you can still commit to it wholeheartedly. It allows a leader to say, look, I know we disagree, but will you gamble with me on this? Disagree and commit? It's a way to move forward without waiting for everyone to agree. And Bezos emphasizes this isn't just for subordinates. He disagrees and commits all the time. He'll listen to a team, express his concerns, but then say, you have more information than I do, we're doing it your way. And I'm all in. These principles, customer obsession, day-one mentality, long-term thinking, willingness to fail, and fast decision-making, are the threads running through all of Bezos's writings. They're the operating system of Amazon. But as the company has scaled, another theme has emerged, using that scale for good. In recent years, Bezos has turned attention to climate change with the Climate Pledge, committing Amazon to net zero carbon by 2040, 10 years ahead of the Paris Agreement. He's challenged other retailers to match Amazon's $15 minimum wage. And he's launched the Bezos Day One Fund, a multi-billion-dollar commitment to help homeless families and create high-quality preschools in low-income communities. It's a journey that comes full circle, back to that quiet moment on a Texas highway, back to the idea that it's harder and ultimately more important to be kind than clever. As we close the pages of Invent and Wander, what are we left with? It's tempting to look at Amazon's story as some mythical business fairy tale, but I think that misses the point. The real power of this book isn't in the what, it's in the how. It's a masterclass in a way of thinking that's both wildly ambitious and beautifully simple. The central lesson for me is the incredible power of a long-term perspective. We live in a world obsessed with the short term, with quarterly earnings, instant gratification, overnight success. Bezos built his empire by systematically ignoring all of that. He was willing to be misunderstood by Wall Street for years, even decades, because he was focused on a different timeline. He wasn't building for the next quarter. He was building for the next decade. This long-term view isn't just business strategy. It's a life philosophy. It's what gives you patience to learn difficult skills, resilience to endure setbacks, and courage to take on projects that might not pay off for years. It's understanding that the most rewarding things in life aren't built overnight. They're compounded over time through consistent effort. And that effort is guided by relentless focus on who you're serving. The idea of customer obsession is so much more than good service. It's about developing deep, intuitive empathy for the people you're trying to help. It's about working backward from their needs, both spoken and unspoken, and inventing on their behalf. Whether your customer is a client, a student, a reader, or a family member, this principle holds true. When you make their delight your North Star, you'll never run out of ways to grow and improve. But perhaps the most liberating idea in this whole collection is the embrace of wandering and failure. So many of us are paralyzed by fear of making mistakes, of taking the wrong path. Bezos reframes failure not as an endpoint, but as a data point. It's a necessary toll on the road to invention. He gives us permission to experiment, to be a little messy, to follow our hunches and curiosity, even when we don't know exactly where they'll lead. Because the greatest discoveries, the truly game-changing breakthroughs, are rarely found on straight, well-trodden paths. They're found by those brave enough to wander. So how can you start applying these powerful ideas to your own life right now? Here are a few simple actions to consider. First, next time you face a difficult choice, try the regret minimization framework. It doesn't have to be life-altering. Just pause and imagine yourself at 80, looking back. Which path will you be prouder of? What will you regret more? The sting of potential failure, or the quiet haunting of never having tried? Let that future self be your guide. Second, find your customer. Think about who you're serving in your life right now. It could be your boss, your teacher, or your family. Ask yourself, how can I obsess over making their experience better? What's a small invention I can create on their behalf, something they haven't even asked for, that would delight them? This simple shift from focusing on yourself to focusing on service can unlock incredible creativity and goodwill. And third, identify a two-way door decision in your life. Find one small reversible choice you've been putting off because you're worried about getting it wrong. Make the decision today. See what happens. The truth is, most of our fears are about doors we can easily walk back through. Give yourself permission to act, to learn, and to correct course along the way. That was the book summary of Invent and Wander by Jeff Bezos. We've covered the major themes today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary, no matter how detailed, is like looking at a photograph of a great meal. You can see the ingredients, appreciate the presentation, but you can't taste it. The real magic, the real flavor of this book happens when you read it yourself. It's in the quiet moments, when one of Bezos's simple, powerful phrases connects with a challenge you're facing in your own life. This summary is your map, but the treasure is found on the journey. If anything we've talked about today sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to grab a copy. It's more than just a book, it's an invitation to think bigger, be bolder, and build a more interesting story for yourself. The link is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring the ideas that shape our world, please take a moment to subscribe. It helps us continue bringing you these journeys into the minds of the world's greatest thinkers. Let's keep learning and keep growing together.